we do want to have a discussion regarding democracy in Africa. And of course, that Twitter poll question still carrying on. But joining me now in the studio, in my extreme left, we have Dr. Casper Chege, who is from the Center of Strategic and International Affairs. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
All right. We also have Mohamed Yahya, Senior Development and Conflict Prevention Specialist for UNDP. Good morning and thank you for joining us. Let's start off with Gambia, with what is going on in Gambia. And we have a sudden turnaround, which initially there was a sigh of relief, you know, with everybody thinking, okay, for the first time we have an incumbent who's been there for 22 years, has conceded defeat. So it looked like it was going well, but a sudden turnaround. Let me start with you, Chege. Your thoughts on that?
Yes, I think the situation in Gambia illustrates the importance of electoral institution management systems. For example, if the president felt aggrieved because of he did not accept the election results, he should have had, for example, in Kenya we have the Supreme Court in case you do not agree with the election results. So I think the situation in Gambia is sad, but it shows the importance of creating institutions and systems to handle such situations where you can have a person who's defeated and then they want to take over power again.
But one might argue that the institution was actually in place and did a good job. I don't know why there was a sudden turnaround, although according to him, he says it's because they seem to recount. And of course, he's doubting that and thinking maybe there's something that's happening. One might argue that the institution was already okay.
Well, that's the Electoral Commission. We're talking about not just the Electoral Commission, because you can disagree with the results of the count, but you should have other institutions that you can go instead of going to the streets or taking power by force. Yes.
Okay. Mr. Mohammed, your thoughts on what's happening in Gambia?
Yeah, I very much agree with what Casper said. I think the Gambian system worked in terms of the election commission. The results were declared. The president accepted the results, and later he changed his mind. But in the Gambian system, you have a right to change your mind, but you have to go through the legal process. And he has started going through the legal process. What is concerning many people is that the use of military and going to the election commission and what appears to be a not legal way of asking for redress. And I think the call of the international community now is, and ECOWAS especially, is to say, let's respect the results as declared by the election commission.
And if you
exactly, and go through the system. Let me just say, to add that, although we're discussing Gambia, overall, the African story of democracy is much better than reported. We have seen some stagnation and some reversals, but overall, what we see in the continent is really a big wave and a big push for democratization. And what you just saw in Ghana is a classic example. And who went to Gambia to try to tell President Jammeh to respect the will of the people? President Mahama, who himself had just lost an election.
Right.
And he's leaving power. So the picture of having, having a picture of having President Jammeh there, President Mahama there, telling President Jammeh, look, I have lost and I'm leaving.
Right.
And this is the culture.
Follow suit. And
exactly.
It's not the end of the world even when you've lost. And after all, it saves many lives. Chege, why do you think the talks have started off on a wrong footing, looking at they're already facing challenges?
Yes. I think one of the big things, of course, is in the idea that he had conceded. And I think part of it may be political pressure placed on some of the African leaders who want to leave. And you know, some of these...
Sorry, we are having a technical problem with the microphone, so maybe I'll just pose the same question to you while we deal with that. Why do you think the talks possibly have started on a difficult note? One would have expected with ECOWAS going in and Jammeh, you know, basically agreeing to meet them, that that should already be a good sign, but he seems to be resistant already.
Yeah, we really, I mean, we don't have information, at least from my perspective, on why he seems less accommodating. But I think by having ECOWAS there, and the role of ECOWAS in that region has been one of as a stabilizing force. And they've intervened in many parts of that region and have really pushed the agenda for democratization. So I'm hopeful that the president of Gambia will see and take the right decisions, because I can't imagine ECOWAS allowing a precedent whereby a president loses an election accepts the results, and then changes his mind without going through the legal system.
Without going through the legal system. We'll come to Maendeleo Policy on Election, which is a conference that's going to be taking place here in Nairobi. But your thoughts on the possible repercussion should Yahya Jammeh stick to his guns and say, I'm not going to concede?
Well, the Security Council has already issued a statement asking him to respect the will of the people. ECOWAS has done so. Senegal has also done so. So I can't imagine a system or a list in the Gambian situation to deteriorate. Hopefully not. We have seen that these issues in terms of conflict or forceful intervention is not the interest of anybody. Hopefully reason prevails, and we're very hopeful that it will.
Okay. What do you think is the problem that we have in Africa? Because it seems like we have a problem somewhere. Given that, looking at Gambia, they had a successful election. We thought, or so far, we also were assuming that, Ghana had a successful election. Gambia, we also thought was having a successful election until now. And it seems like both countries have their electoral commissions in place and working.
Yes.
But where do we go wrong?
Well, I think one of the biggest problems we've seen in the continent is that we have had, election is a mere manifestation of our inability to manage diversity. And the concept of diversity and the strength of diversity hasn't been something that we've been very used to. Having said that, if you look at the Freedom House data, in 1990 we had only 8% of African countries are considered fully democratic. Today the number is 20%. We have seen in West Africa places like Benin, we have seen places like Nigeria. The current President Buhari defeated a sitting president, and the sitting president accepted. The same thing in Ghana. We have seen ruling political parties defeated. And we've also seen countries like Kenya in 2013, when the opposition felt that the election didn't go right, they went to the courts. And that is the culture that we are really trying to push. The legal process allows you to challenge, but having said that, there are still pockets in the continent where the issue of election management, the issue of managing diversity hasn't settled, and we need to do more on that. Just to say, the African Union has been very forceful in its call for democratic culture. Its charters does so, and many of the African governments have signed up to those charters, which calls for free, credible elections.
Okay. Chege, looking at our electoral commission in Kenya, do you feel we are getting closer to having one that can deliver credible election? We seem to concentrate more on the personalities as opposed to the institution. Right.
Yes, I think we definitely have a good institution that can deliver the type of results that we want. I think the biggest problem in Kenya is personalities and politicization of the process. And really sometimes I would say we shoot ourselves in the leg. So I think we need to build our own local capacity and support our institutions so that they also feel that they have the backing and the independence to do their duties. So I think we are getting there, and I think if we give them the room and the space in 2017, they'll deliver good elections.
Mohammed, do you have the same opinion that we are getting there?
Yes, Kenya has come a long way in terms of its institutional capacity, its ability to manage elections. And I said, 2013 was a really big year for Kenya in terms of people using the courts to manage any contestations they have had. And the election commission in Kenya, I'm confident in 2017 will do even a better job. The issue of, that Casper mentioned in terms of our ability to capacity of institutions are critical, but more also the reason we worry about capacity of institutions is the credibility of the process. People have to feel that their vote matters, that their opinion is captured and it counts. That is why institutions matter. So trust of institutions, but also trust in the process. It's a critical part of it.
Do you think we're building that trust as a country? We're getting to a point where we're beginning to trust our process and our commission?
Yeah, as I said, it's not only the commission which is important. Entire culture of democracy the idea that if you lose is not the end of the world. If you lose as a minority political opinion, that the system allows that also to coexist with a majority view. And that acceptance of diversity and management of diversity is important. What we shouldn't, and what the African democratic process has suffered from, is this over-focus on election as democracy in itself. Election alone is not a democracy. Democracy is much broader than that. It's about civic space. It's about opportunities to allow freedom of speech and all those tenets of what democratic culture is. And I think we are getting there, because as they say, the democratic process comes in a snail pace, but it always arrives.
It gets there. All right, let's talk about Maendeleo policy on election. Caspar, what is the objective of this meeting? Maybe you can start first of all by telling us what is the meeting all about.
Okay, I'll open a little bit and I'll turn it to Yaya, who is UNDP. Yes, it brings in, the Maendeleo Forum brings in eminent persons from different African countries, including we'll have the lady who led the successful Ghana elections, Mrs. Osir here. It brings eminent persons so we can solve African issues and help democratize and develop Africa. This time around, we'll be focusing on elections and how to improve the electoral process in Africa. So then, and the objectives will be to look at Kenya's electoral process and also create the type of policies or policy suggestions that can improve even 2017.
Okay. Yes. And the main objective of having this meeting is to, of course, look for ways of addressing like an issue we have in Gambia right now. How do you think that would play out?
Well, I mean, Caspar touched on, we really have somebody in Charlotte Ose, the chairperson of the Ghana Election Commission, who just delivered a very successful and credible election, where a sitting president accepted a defeat to an opposition leader, who's now the president-elect. She'll be here sharing with all Kenyans on how her experience has been, how much pressure she has faced in terms of managing that process. Imagine she had to go and tell the world that the sitting president had lost. And I think her experience would be very powerful in terms of the culture of democratization. Ghana has a lot to teach us. And Ghana, its civic space, its ability to manage elections is something that we want all Kenyans and all Africans to learn from. So she'll be here. She's already arrived. And together with other eminent Africans who will also talk about their experience, we'll have people from Southern Africa, we'll have people from also Kenya participating.
All right. And I'm sure she's going to give and highlight the main things that possibly gave them a winning formula. But what is it that we can learn so far from them, Caspar, looking at Ghana as having delivered a very credible election, where an incumbent has actually conceded defeat?
Yes, I think one of the big things and lessons we can learn from Ghana is the idea of allowing the institutions to do their work and not having too much interference. We can see, for example, in the case of Gambia, right now, some military people went to the Electoral Commission.
Yes, and bad stuff from going in.
Yes, and which sends a very serious message about civil servants working in these institutions, how they should watch themselves. But we can see in Ghana an example where the commission was given the ability to do its work independently and free. They also, for the fact that she could go ahead and announce that the president had, the incumbent had lost, gives you that idea that they also had the freedom to even go as far as to do that. And so I think we can definitely learn a lesson in Kenya by allowing the IEBC to do its job and to feel safe enough to announce the election results as they see it.
Okay. Yes. Now, the other area that we face challenges is perception, because perception, they say, is reality. And when it comes to the Electoral Commission, they may not have physically done anything wrong, but perception carries the day at the end of the day when it comes to election. How do we improve our perception of our commissions?
Well, I think the civic space, the role of civil society, allowing a transparent process, allowing support, because the Election Commission is only one institution. So the democratic culture and the democratic process, especially elections, demand an increased civic space. And in this sense, Africa hasn't been doing very well lately in terms of allowing a larger civic space. And there's some regression on the civic space. So I think allowing that may be one way of building the credibility, because people who are not in Nairobi or who are not in the capitals all around, vote in rural areas or very far away, they need to have a different set of information coming to them, and the civic space allows that kind of thing, because it's very easy in the age of social media and what now they call fake news all over the world. It's very easy to mislead people and have different information.
Absolutely, and we can see even how it's affecting America, despite the fact they already have a president-elect. But here we have now a new term, really, fake news. Perception, Caspar, and the fact that that has to be done. But again, looking at our politicizing of such institutions, is there a way that we can ensure that we stay aware of that so that we let the institutions work on their own?
I'll say the reality is it's going to be hard, because it is definitely a political strategy,
right?
In certain cases, to make sure that election credibility is not seen. So we know there will be certain elements that will not want institutions to look credible. But I think one of the important things, as you said, is improving on information sharing. We definitely need to increase information sharing so that the people can feel like they are a part of the process. They can understand the selection process of commissioners, for example. So if we can have a more open, transparent, if we can have even the commission itself talking with the people, so that people can kind of feel engaged and a part of the process, it can improve on the credibility. But that's not to take away from the fact that there will definitely be forces and elements that will want to use political strategies. So it's about not the civic space, but it's also for us to educate ourselves and to push the knowledge and information that stay away from decisive politics that will try to politicize our institutions for the sake of
getting political mileage and self-benefit. Thank you, gentlemen. Because of time, we'll have to wind up right there. Dr. Caspar Chege, who is from the Center of Strategic and International Affairs, and also Mohamed Yaya, Senior Development and Conflict Prevention Specialist for UNDP. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Now,